stole the clicker. Kia ora koutou, I'm going to talk really quickly. This is a very complex issue and I've been told very strictly I have 8 minutes, so this is like a rapid fire version of Animal Testing 101. First off, we're going to start with a question that everybody asks: why in 2026 are animals still being harmed for science here in Aotearoa? And this is something I've been asked many, many times in many different forms, and it's something that you can't have a simple answer to. It's a very complex issue, so the answer with it is also complex as well. And at BAR we believe the solution to actually creating real change for animals lies in the answer to this question. And it's looking at the complexity of the answer of this that will show us the solution. That sounds complicated, but follow with me, you'll get it. In case anybody is learning for the first time today that animals are still harmed for science here, this is just a quick overview of the stats from last year. So the main thing to take away from this, that last year, so in 1 year alone, over 180,000 animals lost their lives to the science system here in Aotearoa. And then if you want to look at what types of animals are used in harmful ways for science here in New Zealand, these are all the different animals who were used and killed last year. So the figure beside their picture is how many of those animals were killed last year. You can see that fish and mice are very high up, and there's a whole array of animals that will probably surprise you. There is a hamster there as well. Has anyone in this room ever seen a hamster? In New Zealand?
No.
Yeah. So the only way that they are actually, that I know of, that they can be imported into this country is to be used for science. So you'll only find them in laboratories, not as companion animals. So back to the question, why are animals still being harmed for science? Now to answer this, we can actually look at some of the most common assumptions really that people say to try and answer this question. So things like, scientists like harming animals. Maybe in our minds we've all had this sort of narrative of an us versus them, where there's these evil vivisectors who enjoy harming animals. They wake up in the morning and want to do it. They go to work and get a thrill from harming animals. Now, I actually did believe something similar to that when I first started out in this movement over a decade ago. And after meeting thousands and thousands of researchers in real life and talking to them, I can tell you that not one of them wanted to harm animals. And in fact, we actually share a vision with them. They would love to see a future where animals are no longer harmed. So if we can focus on that and work on building that future together, imagine what that could look like. Another assumption is we need to use animals to protect people. You've probably seen a lot of propaganda out there, things like, I would rather choose my grandma over a mouse, or my life matters more than a rabbit, so of course we have to use animals. The reality of it is far different. So at ending the harmful use of animals, it's a scientific issue as well as an ethical one. So the whole reason that animal testing was introduced was to try and protect people, right? But in order to protect people, it has to predict how humans will respond. And we know that mice, rats, rabbits and other animals, they just do not reliably predict how we as human beings will respond. And that's why we have such a huge failure rate when it comes to new drugs coming into human trials. So we're talking over 90% of new drugs that enter human trials fail. And one of the reasons behind that is because of animal models. I say one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons, and we have a whole blog about it on our website. It gets quite technical, but it also comes down to how science is designed. I mean, for many, many years, scientists were only using male animals, for example, and not using females at all. So not only are we using the wrong species, but we're only using one sex of the species. So of course we're going to get results that are hard to translate over to humans. But there's a lot going on within the science system that really means it's quite broken, and scientists acknowledge that themselves. The third assumption is the law protects animals already. So we can just relax because we've got it under control, the law is great. I don't think anyone in this room will probably believe that assumption, but I hear it a lot. When it comes to the use of animals in research, testing and teaching, ignore the random, I don't know why that's there. They're actually under their own separate part in the Animal Welfare Act. So Part 6 of the Animal Welfare Act is for animals who are used for research, testing and teaching, and that basically means that they're exempt from the rest of the Act. So we can use animals in science in ways that would otherwise be illegal in any other situation. The other part of the assumption here is that well, that's missing is that we still have laws in New Zealand that require animal testing, so that acts as another barrier here. And the last assumption I'll talk about, because there's many, is that there aren't alternatives to using animals, and that's why we use them. You know, if there was a viable alternative available, of course we'd use it. That is simply not true. I wish that was the case, but it's not that simple. There are many amazing alternatives available, and many are being developed all the time. And the great thing now about the rapid advancements we're seeing in technologies like AI is that we're able to start from a place of human relevancy. So we've got human-based research. We're looking at human cells and human tissues, not tissues from a rat or a mouse or a rabbit. I don't have time to talk about that, sorry. And now to answer the question. So what I'm basically trying to say here is that the reason why we're using animals still in harmful ways for science, it doesn't have one answer. There's many, many reasons why. And it's almost like this complicated matrix, because it's a very long-standing system that's been there for a very long time. So they're very complicated and embedded with each other. And we at BAR, we call them barriers. So these are all the barriers that are in place that we need to remove together. And I've gone over some of them, but there's a huge list of them. There's the likes of the divide, the us versus them mentality with scientists and animal advocates. It also means we can't access accurate information, the doors get closed on us. Flawed scientific practices, outdated laws, access to alternatives. You know, there's viable alternatives out there, but can researchers in New Zealand access them? Often not, no they can't. And a lack of government leadership, and many, many more. And a very exciting part about this is that at BAR, we're going to be launching very soon, within a few weeks, our Barriers project, which is the first of its kind, a nationwide project where we're actually going to be surveying the science community here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, to see what barriers are in their way. So we can have a sort of a robust, measurable way of saying these are the barriers that we need to focus on first, and these are the ones that will actually have the biggest impact for animals. And that sort of leads into how we work at Beyond Animal Research. We were set up from day one to work with the science community to identify those barriers and then remove them together. Because we believe that we've spent far too long arguing about all our disagreements and all the areas that, you know, we completely do not agree in, whereas we can focus on that shared vision of we all want to see a future where animals are no longer harmed, so how can we get there together? So, example, is someone going to tell me how long I have? Okay, great. An example of what this looks like in real life, one of our projects at BAR is around fetal bovine serum. So that is a horrible ingredient used in biomedical research across the globe, and it's obtained from the blood of fetuses, calf fetuses. And that's the problem, that it's used so widely in science, and then there's all these barriers in the way, including the fact that researchers don't even know where it comes from. We're meeting researchers who just pull it FBS1, take it off the shelf, they have no idea that it's been sourced from an animal. So it's a huge barrier, they don't even know it's a problem. Then there's also awareness of alternatives. You know, there are viable alternatives out there, but how do scientists hear about them? There's cost. How can researchers actually afford to trial these alternatives when they're often more expensive because they use less? And then there's a whole list of other barriers that we are actually overcoming with our pilot project at BAR. So we are helping researchers access a viable animal-free alternative to fetal bovine serum, and we have researchers across 3 different universities currently using it right now, and that's only going to grow. So that's a little taste of what we do at BAR. If you want to join us, learn how you can help, please sign up to our mailing list. We also have a little stand where you can buy our merch. We have very cute stickers and stunning prints by Amanda Toner. If you know her, she's an amazing artist. And thank you.